Hi, good evening, everyone. Let me get these papers together here. Do we have our technology Wendy's up? Okay, good. Okay. Good evening. I'm Amanda Irwin, currently the Director of Marketing and Communications for Boys and Girls Homes of North Carolina and a board member for Sister Cities Association of Wilmington, as well as a proud recovering newspaper and radio journalist. Here in Wilmington, the ocean, the water, the health of our Cape Fear River is at the core of our literal life and culture. The centrality of water in our trade and tourism is what binds us to our sister cities of Doncaster, England, Dandong, China, Bridgetown, Barbados, and San Pedro, Belize. Today, as we're wrapping up Women's History Month, I'm pleased to introduce you to an amazing woman whom the health of our oceans and ocean creatures has been a dominant focus, Wendy Benchley. For more than 50 years, she has been and remains a positive force behind marine and shark conservation efforts worldwide. And Wendy has also dipped her toes into the treacherous political waters as a former New Jersey councilwoman. Growing up in New Jersey, she grew up in New Jersey. She later met and married Peter Benchley, whom you may know as the writer of Jaws. But the book and the movie phenomenon were the beginning catalyst behind an entire life of work in marine conservation for Wendy. Together, Peter and Wendy spent many years doing cage dives with sharks to better understand and advocate for them around the world. Wendy was a board member for the Environmental Defense Fund for 20 years, and Peter was their spokesman. Wendy co-founded the New Jersey Environmental Federation to fight for marine conservation in her home state. And following Peter's passing in 2006, she co-founded the Peter Benchley Ocean Awards in his memory, which some now call the Oscars of the ocean. I think your awards are coming up in May, aren't they, Wendy? This year's award honorees include Marcela Gutierrez Grandins, Vice Chair of the California State Coastal Conservancy, Sir David Attenborough, who needs little introduction to naturalists and film buffs worldwide, Julie Packard, Executive Director of the Monterey Bay Aquarium, President Jose Manuel Bolero, President of the Government of the Azores, and so many more amazing ocean advocates around the world. Wendy made all that possible, spreading the word about their good work. Also, I want to say congratulations to her on her documentary, Jaws at 50, which was released on my daughter's birthday, July 10th last year. My teenage son also has a Jaws poster in his bedroom today. We're big fans in our household. Though I have to say that after Jaws was released as a child, I was so afraid of sharks. I was convinced one would swim into my bath through the pipes. Did anybody else have that fear? It's just me. That made bath time a challenge for my mom. But there is no questioning the indelible mark of that movie and then all of the subsequent work that Wendy has done in her life on conservation efforts worldwide. In 2014, Wendy was awarded the Seakeeper Lifetime Achievement Award, and she was inducted into the Women Divers Hall of Fame in 2015. Wendy, I'm going to let you take it from here, as I know you want to tell us so much more about your life and conservation efforts for our ocean life and shark biology and habitat research and your observations of all of those things. Wendy, thank you so much for speaking with us tonight. Just one program note, Wendy will have her presentation, and then we will have time for questions from the audience. So please have your questions ready, folks. All right, Wendy, take it away.
Oh, Amanda, thank you so much for that lovely introduction. I'm just delighted to be here, and thank you, Marilyn Cantarella, for inviting me to speak tonight. Um, it's special to be part of the International Women's History Week. So this is a nice evening. We all find meaning in life through infinite number of ways. And for my life, it was two big events that set me on my path. One was, as you mentioned, my husband's book, Jaws, that really catapulted us into a magnificent ocean journey. And the other was being elected to to government office in Princeton, New Jersey for 9 years. Actually, it was 12 years total. My stint in government taught me the value of listening, of teamwork, persistence, bringing together people, leadership to try to turn good ideas into action. And one thing I'd like to mention is that I also supported women for political office. In the 80s, it was hard for women to run for office. They just didn't have the money to make it happen. And I give kudos to a group called Emily's List, which stands for Early Money is Like Yeast. And if women have early money, they can rise up just like yeast and win. So it was always men giving money to men, but Emily's List raised millions and millions of dollars for women through the years, and women did begin to win. And I sort of count myself lucky to have been part of that time. Then, of course, there was Jaws. Um, it it was a global phenomenon, and it really just rocked our souls. We went from a normal life of wonderful family and friends into being in the spotlight. And uh, it was unnerving. Really, it was unnerving. People were accusing Peter of creating fear of sharks. And yes, Jaws did create some fear, and we'll talk about that more later. But he did not create the fear. Human beings have been afraid of sharks for thousands of years. And of course, the press was just beat the drum over and over and over again. So it was a chaotic time in our life, but Peter and I were really determined not to let this chaos disrupt our family life or our life with friends, and to try to take this extraordinary event, learn from it, teach other people about sharks and the ocean. As we learned, we brought other people along and turn that fear into fascination and into shark research and shark conservation. So I would love to share a little bit more of our story with you tonight. And give you me a minute and I will share my screen and put up some slides that I hope you will enjoy. Here it comes. All right. So, just to go back a little bit with some background about my husband, Peter. He was born in New York City to a remarkable literary family. This is a caricature drawn by Al Hirschfeld. I think you all may have seen some of his sketches. Robert Benchley is on the right. He was a great writer of articles and critical of screenplays, shows, and part of the Algonquin Roundtable with Dorothy Parker and many other writers. And then Nathaniel Benchley, Peter's father, who was a novelist. Then the next one is Peter in those nice dark rimmed glasses, and his younger brother, Nat Benchley, who was an actor. Peter's love of storytelling started early. He summered in Nantucket Island, and he had always wanted to be a novelist, and he told his dad that he would like to do that. So his dad wisely said, uh, if you want to be a novelist, you've got to learn how not to have writer's block. And I'll tell you what I'll do. I will pay you what you would earn mowing lawns this summer if you get up at 7 o'clock every morning and go out to the workroom and type. type your thoughts on the paper. I don't care what you write, but you type and you think for 4 hours and then hand the papers in to me. I won't even read them. Peter did it. He loved it. He loved the isolation. He loved getting his imagination onto the paper in front of him. So that was the start of his story writing career. And all through Exeter and Harvard, he cranked out a lot of stories. Peter's father had a wonderful sense of humor. So to celebrate the summer of writing, he gave Peter a piece of wood carved to resemble a guillotine inscribed with writer's block. Peter kept it on his desk to ward away the evils of procrastination. We were married in 1964, and we started our lives in New York City with Peter working for Newsweek magazine. And then in 1966, life took an exciting turn, and Peter was hired to write speeches for President Johnson. We spent a fascinating 2 years in Washington. When LBJ decided not to run for office again, Peter was out of a job. We moved to Pennington, New Jersey, and he started to work on freelance writing. Now, there were a lot of magazines then, and he had many, many assignments, but it was not enough to earn money for the family to keep us all going. So we were young and foolish then, and we thought, well, okay, if there's not enough money in magazine writing, maybe a novel would work. Uh, so he went to New York City, talked to Doubleday. He had he had two ideas about uh, a novel. One was about current day pirates, and the other was about a great white shark that hung around a New England town and caused a bit of chaos. The Doubleday liked the fish story, as they called it, and Peter went back to Pennington, and he wrote Jaws in the Pennington Furnace Repair Shop. There was a lot of clanging and carrying on in there, and he had this tiny, tiny little broom closet to write in. But it was better for him to hear that clanging than it was to be at home with me and two little toddler kids running around. Uh, People always ask me, how did the name Jaws come up? And honestly, it was a chaotic situation. We had to get a name settled on because the publication date was coming up. There were dozens of ideas. Some of them were very dramatic, like White Death, and others were pretentious, like Leviathan Rising. And Peter's father, with his wit, said, I've got an idea. Why don't you name it, What's That Noshin' on My Leg? Needless to say, we did not use that one, but Jaws was the one word that everybody agreed upon and was interested in. And for heaven's sakes, it could have been a book about a dentist, but they settled on Jaws because it was short. And as Peter always said, nobody read first novels anyway. Thank heavens that wasn't true. So it's been 50 years since Jaws was being filmed since Jaws came out. That was in 1964. And during the summer of 1964, Steven Spielberg was on Martha's Vineyard beginning to film the movie. Peter's, we, none of us could have imagined at that moment that this scrappy, ambitious film would become a global phenomenon. I thought you'd enjoy just a few photos from the set on Martha's Vineyard. In this one, Stephen, who's only 27 years old and not yet famous, is giving Peter some hints about his part as an Amity reporter. And Peter was only 34 right then. And here's Peter on the beach interviewing, doing his role as the reporter, interviewing Richard Dreyfuss, who was Hooper in the movie, the ichthyologist. Oh gosh, we really had a good time with Richard Dreyfuss. He was just such a funny, witty man. And we also had a great time with Roy Scheider, who played, sorry, Chief Brody. That's me with the long stringy hair, and Peter and our young son Clayton. Roy was a dancer, a superb dancer, and he actually did not like the ocean. So he just was astonished that he was in this film about a great white shark where he had to be on the ocean all the time. We also got to know Robert Shaw, who, as you all probably agree, was just a great actor. Um, Peter had many fascinating conversations with him, but he was a prickly personality, and I actually avoided him. On the set, there were three mechanical sharks, one for the right and one for the left, and then one that would come right up out of the water in order to take somebody in its mouth. Um, but there was a real problem with the shooting of the shark because it was made for fresh water, not salt. Salt water corrodes metal, and so it was constantly breaking down. And on the set, you could hear, the shark is not working. The shark is not working. That went on day after day after day. But that did give Spielberg a lot more time to work with Quint and Hooper and Brody on character development. And I think that's one of the reasons why Jaws is still so popular with people. That the characters in it are really fascinating, and the townspeople are interesting. That was just a stroke of genius that Spielberg brought so many non-actors into the film. Peter was a sophisticated guy, and he knew that when you sell a book to the movies, you lose control over what's in it. Spielberg listened to many of his ideas, but he resisted having the shark, an 18-foot shark, which is what Peter wrote about. And that's a realistic size for a great white shark. That's really a very big one. Um, and Spielberg decided to make it a 28-foot shark because he was the genius. He knew that he had to make this film just that much scarier to have it work as a movie. So the shark was 28 feet. And please remember that that is not the size of sharks in the ocean. We went right after the book was published. ABC Sportsman called Peter and said, "Okay, big fella, you've just written this book about a great white shark, and would you like to go to Dangerous Reef in South Australia and cage dive with the great whites?" Peter and I thought for about 2 seconds and said, "Absolutely, we'll do it." So off we went to Australia. It was Australia in the 70s. They were a little bit, not quite as up to date socially, and women were not welcome on boats. So they banished me to the upper deck. There were two cages on the stern of the boat, tied to the boat with a rope. Peter got into one, the cameraman got into the other. There was also a really hideous smelling, I'm sorry to say this, half a horse hanging up as bait for the shark. So we watched as a big, beautiful female came up and went to take a bite of the horse. And instead of biting the horse, she got the line in her mouth and stuck between her teeth. And they have these triangular teeth with quite a bit of space in between them. So the rope was stuck there. The shark was furious. It whipped around up and down, dragged Peter and the cage under the boat, dragged him back up again. I screamed at the cameraman, "Get the line out of the shark's mouth." They, of course, were behind their camera lenses, just captivated by all this action. And what were they to know? They had never seen this before or done it before. And for all they knew, that was exactly what should be happening. So I came down from the upper deck, elbowed my way through the guys, And when the shark came back up again to try to take a bite of the horse, I grabbed the end of the line and yanked it out of her mouth, and all was peaceful and calm. And Peter stayed down for another half an hour. And when he came up, he said, "What was all that commotion? I thought I was going to be killed down there." And all the guys did have to say it was Wendy who saved the day by grabbing that rope out of the shark's mouth. So I take a little bow for that one. Peter was just awestruck in seeing this, and I was too, in seeing this beautiful great white shark. But he really understood that he would never again make such a magnificent creature the villain of his story. We were horrified that some people took Jaws as a license to go out and kill sharks. And there was an uptick in shark tournaments. And we took this slaughter very seriously and began working to change perception of sharks. As the months went by, Peter began to receive hundreds and hundreds of letters from around the world saying that they loved the movie, that they were fascinated by the sharks. Many of them wanted to be Hooper, the ichthyologist. So that was a huge relief that we realized really right when the movie came out, it was fascinating to people and it gave people great excitement and wonder about the ocean again. Over the next 30 years, Peter wrote a dozen novels, The Deep, The Island, Beast, Shark Trouble. The Shark Trouble is the closest he ever came to an autobiography. It's a great, fun book. He also went on many ocean expeditions for National Geographic and the New England Aquarium and other organizations. As we raised our young family in Princeton, I went with Peter on some trips, but I also was deeply involved in environmental issues in New Jersey. I spent 8 years fighting an incinerator. I was elected to Princeton Borough Council for 9 years, and I was a Mercer County freeholder for 3 years. I worked on many, many issues, affordable housing, more environmental issues, jitneys, working with Princeton University to get them to pay more money in lieu of taxes, like Yale did. It was a really fascinating, satisfying job. I also slipped in as many scuba dives as I could. Peter asked me what I'd like to do on our 40th wedding anniversary, and I said cage diving with the great whites in Guadalupe Island off California's Baja Peninsula. It was a magnificent experience. We were there, and there must have been 3 or 4 beautiful female great white sharks coming by the cage. And I was able to put my hand out and stroke this one shark that just sort of cruised slowly by. And I could stroke her from head to tail, and it felt like very smooth, beautiful leather. And then if I went from tail to head, it was the feeling of sandpaper because of the denticles in the shark skin. It was just a magnificent experience and one that I will treasure forever. Peter and I realized early on that the threat was not sharks attacking people, but people attacking sharks on an industrial scale in the ocean to feed the demand for shark fin soup in China and in Asia. Today, there are 100 million sharks killed every every year. That is nearly 2 million sharks every week, 250,000 sharks every single day, and 3 sharks killed every second, nonstop. These are just staggering numbers. and they're driven by human consumption. This is just a horrifying picture of tens of thousands of shark fins spread out on a dock drying to be shipped to Asia to go into shark fin soup. I just hate to see that picture. And the shark fins are severed off of the live shark, and then the shark is thrown back in the water alive to die a slow and I'm sure very painful death. So destroying sharks is a recipe for long-term ocean decline, not just for sharks, but for the entire ocean. I've been a member of the Wild Aid Board for more than 2 decades. It's an organization that's based in San Francisco, and it's been doing shark fin work and endangered species work for many, many years. Their innovative work addresses the root cause of shark finning, which is demand by humans. Wild Aid creates stunning, high-quality campaigns featuring celebrities like Jackie Chan, Yao Ming, Prince William, and many others to explain the destruction of sharks. These ads were shown thousands and thousands of times across China. I'm going to show them to you because I think you'll find them quite fascinating. The first one is Yao Ming, who is the NBA basketball star and also carried the Chinese flag in the opening ceremony of the Olympics. Here goes Yao Ming.
If you could see how shark fin soup is made, if you could see how each year up to 70 million sharks are killed to end up in soup, could you still eat it? A third of all shark species are nearly extinct, but we can help save them.
Remember, when buying stops, the killing can too.
There are plenty of ways to impress a beautiful woman. Buying her shark fin soup just isn't one of them. When the buying stops, the killing can too.
So these ads were so powerful, and the campaign was wildly successful. The demand for shark fin soup in China went down by 80%. Now, Wild Aid is still working in China and other Asian countries, and there's a lot more work to do, but we know that we can make a difference with human behavior change. Another piece of the puzzle for protecting our sharks are marine protected areas. They are like national parks for the ocean. They play a vital role in providing safe spaces for sharks and all marine species to breed, grow, multiply, repopulate the ocean. Really, marine protected areas are fish producers. Wild Aid received the Prince William's prestigious Earthshot Prize for their powerful programs in 20 countries. We organize citizens, government, fishermen in the process of patrolling their own waters by boat and by radar to keep illegal fishing boats out. It's just so important that the local people are involved. And we find that when we set up the program, help them do some fundraising and have radar and boats, they are able to keep it going and make a very successful MPA where wildlife has a chance to grow. We've quadrupled the marine protected areas in the world's oceans over the last couple decades, but there's still a long way to go. I'm sorry to say, we have 9.8% are currently protected, and our global goal is to get to 30% by 2030. It's beginning to happen. Maybe we won't get to 30%, but I know we're getting more and more and more every year. Another absolutely important element in ocean conservation is that we know now, which we didn't know 30 or 40 years ago, we know now that the ocean is Earth's most important climate control system. Habitats like mangrove trees and seagrasses, where many, many species live and thrive, absorb 15 times more carbon than tropical rainforests. There are major efforts going on around the world now to expand and protect the mangroves and the seagrasses. Over the past years, as Amanda said, I have been working on a documentary with Steven Spielberg's production team, Amblin Entertainment, and also the National Geographic on a new featured documentary, and it's called Jaws at 50, The Definitive Inside Story. The movie premiered last summer, and as Amanda and her children did, you can watch it on Hulu and Disney+. What I love about the documentary is that it shows the huge shift that has happened over the past half century in the knowledge and attitude about sharks. I think Jaws this is Jaws' most important legacy. It jump-started shark research, interest, and understanding. And one interesting fact is applications for marine science jumped up 30% in the 2 or 3 years following the release of Jaws. And that interest is still strong after 50 years. In our travels, Peter and I saw the importance of the hundreds of scientists, nonprofits, grassroots activists, and political leaders who were working to solve problems for our seas. And we felt so strongly that there should be a way to recognize and celebrate them. And that was the inspiration behind the Peter Benchley Ocean Awards, which I co-founded to honor Peter's legacy. The Benchley Awards are partnered now with the Aquarium Conservation Partnership, and this is a coalition of 35 aquariums across the US and Canada, with more than 40 million annual visitors who are thrilled to see marine creatures and who answer the aquarium's call for ocean action. So we feel very, very happy and excited about this. Amanda gave you some of these names, and the awards will be on May 7th. So if any of you are planning to be on the West Coast in Monterey, we would just love to see you. And if you're interested, you can go to peterbensleyoceanawards.org. I'd like to end with a story that brings alive the depth of complexities of sentient ocean creatures. It's so important for us to understand that we are much more apt to protect that which we understand and admire. This story is about Peter having a ride on a giant manta ray, as you can see from this slide. The manta ray is a very gentle creature. It only eats microscopic marine animals and little shrimps and little tiny fish. So there is no danger. The wingspan of a manta can be 15, 16, 17 feet across. This happened because Peter was with ABC Sportsman on a shoot in the Sea of Cortez. He went off to film hammerhead sharks, And Michelle Hall, who's an underwater photographer, stayed on the boat. She was alone. She saw a shadow under the boat. So she popped on a scuba tank, went down, and she saw that it was a manta. And the manta had fishing line that was caught in, let's call it the shoulders of the wings, and it was tearing the thresh. So Michelle very gently knelt on the manta's back. The manta quivered, but it didn't swim away. It stayed right there. She pulled the fishing line out. It must have hurt the manta, but that manta knew that what she was doing was going to save it. So it stayed still. She pulled the fishing line out, and then Michelle hung on, and the manta took her for a ride and brought her back to the boat. When Peter came back from the hammerhead shark shoot, he too put on a scuba tank, went over, and the manta gave him a ride, brought him back to the boat. The manta stayed for 3 days, giving various people rides, but always coming back to the boat because it knew that this was a safe haven for it. And after 3 days, it did swim away. Peter was so exhilarated by this experience that he came home and he wrote a book called The Girl of the Sea of Cortez, which was his favorite novel. I hope I have not overwhelmed you with ocean details, but that I've been able to intrigue you enough so that you will support groups that work on our streams, rivers, and oceans, just like the sister cities of this event are all connected by streams, rivers, and the ocean. I'm sure many of you already do this work because there are hundreds to choose from, whether local, national, or international. I've always felt that action is an antidote to despair. And I know that we have made enormous progress on ocean conservation issues over the past 2 decades. We know what we need to do, and we just have to keep at it. And I think we will. So thank you very much for your time and attention, and I would love to answer some questions. Thank you, Amanda. I will turn the screen back to you now.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Wendy, for telling us those wonderful stories. I'd like to invite the audience, if you have a question, to come up to the mic here at the front and ask your questions. If not, I have several questions, but does anybody have a question right off? Yeah, come on up. Right there.
Good evening. Thank you very much. That was an excellent presentation. I love the story of the manta ray because when I have snorkeled, I had the feeling that rays watch you as much as you watch them. But I was going to ask about sharks. Do you or did your husband have a favorite species? Other than perhaps the great white? I don't know. Thank you.
Yeah, the great white. Yes. Oh gosh. I mean, hammerhead sharks are just intriguing also. But I would certainly say that the great whites were absolutely the most magnificent. And when they swim, they don't wiggle like a fish. They just cruise like a submarine or a torpedo by you. And there are certainly I think Peter was most frightened of not the great whites, but the oceanic white tips, because they are very aggressive and very quick. And oh gosh, he had a couple very close calls with them where he would be out with a movie company. And one movie company had a brilliant idea. They asked him to put fish in his BCD in order to pull the sharks in and then go out and swim out into the open ocean and see what sharks arrive. Well, Peter said no, he didn't think he would do that because he knew that would bring in the oceanic white tip, and that would be very, very dangerous. But I think, now divers pay thousands of dollars to dive in marine protected areas so that they're able to see sharks, because they are the big, magnificent species that people tend to want to see. I, however, have had many dives with Sylvia Earle, who is our wonderful, esteemed leader in the ocean community, and she taught me how to go swim slowly and carefully and stop and just watch a square foot of coral reef. Because if you stay still and watch long enough, you begin to see all the little tiny creatures popping out and eating and doing fascinating things. So I began to really appreciate other species. Like I loved moray eels. I just thought they were absolutely fascinating. And my daughter had a wonderful encounter with a moray where it liked her and it wanted to play with her. And it was very gentle with her. So uh, I think there are just so many fascinating marine species. And for those who are not divers, isn't it great that you can just turn on the TV and watch Attenborough or watch any number of fabulous documentary films?
Thank you.
Any-
Who else has a question?
Thank you, Wendy, for your fascinating presentation, and thank you, Amanda, for your leadership tonight with your emceeing this great presentation. I had, I just finished a book, one of the resources was guano, right? Bird poop on Midway Island. And, we're hearing about desalination plants in the Middle East, which is a resource for them, right? If they can keep it, with salt water for drinking water and so forth. What is your balance? What balance can we come to as humans with these extractive
Uh,
resources like the seabed mining with those nuggets that have minerals in them, or perhaps even, are we going to disrupt the ecosystem? And, what about other extractive? We have a crusade against windmills, which are offshore, so forth. Where's your balance on that with your NGO?
yeah. Well, Wild Aid, the NGO I work with, is not deeply involved in the mining, the deep sea mining, or the wind energy. But I personally uh, have I personally think that we need to keep going with wind and solar as much as we possibly can. Um, on the Jersey Shore, people are very, very upset about it because there are so many planned, and they feel that there should be a couple wind farms put up, perhaps, and then let's see the damage or how it goes and what kind of environmental standards there should be for it. And for the deep sea mining, I think that is just a disaster. There have not been any studies about what happens as when they say there are these nuggets that they're going to pick up. I want you to know that it's not a delicate little hand that goes down and just picks up a nugget. No, it is a massive machine as big as 4 houses that is being dragged across like a giant vacuum cleaner, dragged across the ocean floor. And everything is brought up into this, and the nuggets are pulled out. And then the rest is just pumped up the top to go into the ocean current and be spread all over the bottom of the ocean when it comes down. We know not where, and they don't know where. There has been no testing of these ocean currents and where all of the debris will go. So I think that should not be done without proper environmental testing first. Also, I read a lot of articles, and I'm sure you all have too, about new kinds of batteries being created. So I have great faith in the ingenuity of man to create new batteries that maybe will not have to use as much of these rare metals. And I also know that there are rare metals. There are places in the United States where we could mine the rare metals. And if it's done really well with environmental considerations, there wouldn't be tailings and there wouldn't be pollution. So I think we need a much more comprehensive approach to the deep sea mining, and that it should not go ahead without getting this comprehensive approach in place. And what were some of the other ones you talked about? Let's see, wind, solar.
Carol, she's asking
Yeah.
a question about the guano mining.
Excuse me?
It was something about guano collection on an island.
That's
and-
Yeah,
World War II.
I've
That's
not
supposed
read
to
a
be-
lot about
Yeah.
that. I mean,
That's been, you know,
That's been mitigated.
over for
yeah,
75.
that's been over for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now
but
we
when-
use chemicals, which are probably just terrible in its place.
Yeah. Well, how come rich people up in Martha's Vineyard couldn't fight the windmills offshore there? I mean, or do they want to fight windmill or
I think
wind turbine?
there are lots of different opinions. I'm in favor of them.
Okay.
But there are a lot of people who are not. Yes, I am. I think we need to have the wind turbines.
Okay, thank you.
I mean,
Thank
I
you, Wendy.
know, but climate change is absolutely devastating to the earth. So I think we need everything going as fast as we can with solar and wind and nuclear. I mean, that's coming back. I think France has been doing nuclear energy. They have, I don't know, 30, 40, 50% of their energy comes from nuclear. So it's my opinion that climate change is such a dramatic change for the planet that we must do all of these things. And I'll have to admit, my one exception would be the undersea mining, because there hasn't been any environmental safeguards put in.
Wendy, I have a question, and this is a nice segue moment for that. So I was wondering if you could give us some examples of places in the world where maybe in your travels, your dives with your husband earlier on as well, where you've witnessed places where climate change and rising ocean temperatures are affecting both shark life as well as human life on land, even though these places weren't the root causes of that climate change or that ocean warming. Can you tell us, or can you share stories of that situation?
Well, when I started diving, it was in the 70s, 60s actually. And so yes, I on many dives through the years saw a difference in the number of fish. And of course, then we began to see terrible coral bleaching events. And can I tell you a specific dive where these differences were very apparent to me? I can't, because a lot of our dives were in deep water because we were doing sharks. And so I was not as deeply involved in the coastal areas. But the dives that I did go on, I mean, just take the east coast of the United States and go down, there are no coral reefs left around Key West, Florida. So yes, I mean, compared to diving off of Key West 30 or 40 years ago, it's night and day. It's just tragic. And that's why we need marine protected areas, because that at least gives the coral a chance to regenerate, even with climate change. But we see like Misul Eco Resort in Raja Ampat, Indonesia. That is a place where I went 10 years ago with my husband. My husband, John Jeffson, I'm remarried and living in Washington, D.C. And this this was just a gorgeous spot because there has been no fishing allowed there for 15 years. And if you leave the ocean alone and let it propagate and thrive, even in the face of climate change, you can have some healthy reefs. So they have, this was just a wonderful story because this marine protected area was started by two dive masters who saw shark finning going on in in the waters of Rajampat. And they decided that they just couldn't bear it. So they said, we are going to start a marine protected area here if we can. They started by going to all of the local leaders of people along the shore, of communities along the shore. And of course, these local leaders understood right away. They hated the fact that there were people coming in and shark finning. So they were all for having a marine protected area. And there were a lot of NGOs, Conservation International, Wild Aid, and many others helped to get this huge marine protected area going. And now you can go, and stay at Misul Eco Resort, and it's just absolutely lovely. And you don't have to be a scuba diver. My husband's a snorkeler, and I think he saw more than I did because, the most beautiful coral reefs are the ones that are close to the surface. You get the gorgeous colors. So, if you, I mean, you can go on the TV and see absolutely wonderful documentaries about the change in ocean life. Attenborough just did one, and Michelle and Howard Hall do them, and Cameron does them, and they're really good ones done. So it's a sad task, but I think I do feel that we are fully aware of how important the oceans are now, and we do have the tools to make it healthier in the face of climate change. I pray we do.
Thank you, Wendy. Does anybody else have a question for Wendy today? Yeah, come on up.
I've been talking for a long time.
Perhaps this will be the last question. I'm not sure, but with this topic, it sounds like the eco resort is a wonderful ethical answer to conservation while still being able to enjoy the wildlife around us. But there's also, as we know, many unethical tourism aspects of
Mm.
diving in different areas. Are there any accreditations or certifications for companies that you're familiar with that we can look out for to make sure that we're not doing any harm?
Oh, that's a very good question. And I don't honestly know what are the accreditation avenues, but I know that there are accreditation groups and that most dive operations do go through that accreditation. So, but that's not to say that if you're in a country, you should carefully check it out. Because I do know people who have difficulties where the air is bad, in the tank. And but I don't hear a lot of that. I think uh, that's pretty safe. But when you point out the fact that too many divers are just terrible for reef life, that is absolutely true. And I think many gorgeous reef areas have been destroyed by too many people. Just too many bodies, too much suntan oil in the water. As you may know, there are suntan oils now that are not damaging to the reef and to marine life that people should try to use. And I think each country is different in how they organize and try to keep control or no control over the number of divers. But certainly, if you're wise, you control how many divers there are so that you can keep your beautiful reefs and your marine wildlife and keep people coming, and the tourist dollars will keep coming in. But if you overdo it, then you lose it.
Well, thank you so much, Wendy, for spending some time with us today and sharing your wonderful stories. Last call for questions. Anybody? Anybody? Oh, Marilyn's got one. Hold on just a second here.
Oh, Marilyn.
I don't have a question, Wendy. I just wanted to say thank you. Your presentation was magnificent, and we will send you the link so you can share it beyond Wilmington, North Carolina.
Thank you so much, Marilyn.
And we hope
thank
to
you for
have
asking
have
me.
you back again. Maybe you'll come to Wilmington next time.
Oh, yeah, maybe. I would love it. Thank
You
you
almost
so
did,
much.
but it's not
I
Delaware.
know I almost did.
All right. Have a good night.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you,
Night,
Wendy. Let's give her
everybody.
a hand.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you
I
so
enjoyed
much.
it. It was fun.
Have a good night.
Night.
Good night.